Hello, everyone, and welcome to Accessibility Talks, or ALI Talks, the monthly virtual meetup where we chat about digital accessibility, inclusivity, and usability. Each month, we invite a speaker to present on a topic, and afterward, we invite the community, that's you, to ask questions and participate in the discussion. I'm your host today. My name is Ashley Burns. I work at ProMetSource. I live in the western suburbs of Chicago, where the cicadas have taken over, and I use the pronouns she, her.
I guess I'm supposed to introduce myself. I'm John Jameson. I'll be talking today. I'm from Princeton University, and I'm an accessibility tester, developer, things like that. And I focus a lot in terms of author quality assurance tooling, basically.
Excellent. Before we get too far into the talk, I want to let you know we have live transcripts available at bit.ly AliTalks-live transcripts. There's also a QR code if that's easier for you, and you can also enable YouTube closed captions if that works better for you. We'll take a moment to remind everyone that the group seeks to provide a friendly, safe environment. We require all participants to adhere to Accessibility Talks Code of Conduct. That includes speakers, hosts, those watching on YouTube, folks commenting on social networks. This applies to all community interactions, events, verbal questions, and chat and text channels. This code of conduct can be found on our website at alitalks.com/conduct. All participants should be able to engage in productive dialogue and should share and respect and learn with each other in an atmosphere of mutual respect. Questions? We love questions. At the end of the presentation, we'll take some time for Q&A. If you have a question for our speakers during that talk, there are a couple ways you can do that. During our live talk, type your question into the YouTube chat below. It can be busy in the chat, so please start any questions with the letter Q or use the word question, so it's easy for us to find during the live event. Add the hashtag AliTalks, that's A11yTalks, to Mastodon or Twitter. And huge shout out to Agile Collective for becoming a bronze sponsor of ALI Talks. We appreciate your support. Thank you. I want to give a shout out to our AliCat Club members who donate monthly to ALI Talks and are one-time donors as well. So thank you so much for your financial contributions. I also want to give a huge shout out to Amy June. Happy birthday, Amy June, and to all those who celebrate. And you want to see your organization recognized as a sponsor of ALI Talks, visit our sponsorship page at alitalks.com/sponsorship to learn more. And today we have John Jameson, digital accessibility developer at Princeton University. He has some fun facts for you. He'd rather hang out with butterflies than code after work. He has a mostly native garden that has more than 100 species of flowers and several dozens of fruits and berries. And he's going to present the author-friendly content quality assurance with Editoria11y. So the floor is yours.
Where's mine? So, hello. Sorry, yes. So there's a bit of my garden in my free time. Yes, so I am the dad here, the digital accessibility developer. So that's a role I'm in a university environment where there's probably 2,000 or 3,000 websites on campus that we know of, and my group supports about 1,500 of them. So I take the accessibility side of that. The slides I think are in the chat. You can find them at editorially.princeton.edu/A24. And we're going to talk about a brief 3,200-year history of proofreading, because one should always start talks about digital accessibility in the early times. We're going to talk about some trying new things here and some lessons I've learned on this little road, and then where this is going towards live checking tools, things like that. Sorry. So, as I promised, we're going to start in 1200 BC with this lovely hieroglyphic that says Ramses Erphonos. And I love when I show this to ask the audience if anybody knows what that means, and I have yet to find someone who can read this, but I'm looking forward to the day. The problem is it's even harder to read than hieroglyphics because it is backwards. It turns out hieroglyphics can be written right to left or left to right, or I think up to down and down to up. And there's a little WCAG 0.0001 requirement that you face the birds in the direction you're supposed to read. And this poor carver, who was carving the name of his boss, Ray, son of Ray, put the bird backwards. And so very, very early whiteout was applied, some sort of plaster or concrete, covered over the bird's head, carved in the other direction. Somewhere in the last 3,000 years, it fell out. And so now we have a two-headed duck. Why do I start here? I start here because the entire history of creating content is filled with a philosophy that I call teach the author and blame the author. The authors attend trainings from a body of knowledge from arcane texts. Some of the earliest ones, this is a Sumerian-Akkadian bilingual lexicon. It's a bilingual dictionary from thousands of years ago. Modern days, more say like the Oxford English Dictionary. So people go to school. They go to trainings. Proofreading is manual. It's error prone. I grew up in the time when we would be taught to read backwards. So we'd read each word and not get caught skimming. Not great. And I date this as 1200 BC to 1980 because something changed in the last couple of years. And that's spellcheck. Spellcheck came out early 80s on the mainframes, things like that. Became mainstream, and it's pretty cromulent for spelling. It's not perfect. Maybe it doesn't pick up on homonyms. They might be a problem too. But it's great. And one of the things that has changed is that we've started to blame the tools. If you're writing a message to your boss and you get auto-corrected to change their name to something terrible, you're not going to say, oh no, I wrote something terrible. You're going to say, oh my goodness, that was my phone. I'm sorry. We blame the tool. And this is a really important shift, to shift from blaming the author to blaming the tool. And this was the environment I came from when I entered the accessibility world. And I looked around and I said, I'm not sure I like what I see. Where's content accessibility today? Content accessibility today, I think it has a distinct Sumerian Akkadian vibe. We bring up that bilingual lexicon again. I think it bears a more than passing resemblance to the How to Meet WCAG quick reference guide with its column of requirements and guidelines and things like that. It's an arcane text. If people want to start auditing for accessibility, they're supposed to study this body of knowledge and learn it, and they're supposed to apply it in a manual, error-prone process of proofreading and manual checking. That's hard on authors. That's hard. If we start teaching our content authors, that's who I'm really caring about. These are the people that are, putting up what are the details for this event on the calendar, and that's where they interface with digital technology. Calendar items, posts, things like that. These are not developers. These are not designers. These are people that are copying and pasting something from a PDF. If we start telling them that they're going to have to start learn these arcane rules, they don't hear that as we want you to do great work. We want you to do accessible work. They hear that as we want you to do more work. And that's a really important distinction. People do what you're paying them to do. And if you hired them to write and create content, now you're saying, well, we also expect you to be an accessibility expert. People often aren't thrilled to hear that. They might be passionate about accessibility. People don't love more work. So I was hired in this role and finding that a lot of this job was going to be emailing 3,000 people, reminding them that they needed to do more work. It's not fun for either end of those emails. So coming out of that, I knew that they were going to resent these emails. And more importantly, they were going to forget them. Busy people, they tend to resent or forget tasks that fall outside their role. They're very focused on deadlines, getting things done. And if you're saying, don't forget that images need alt texts when you're pasting images into the story, they're probably going to forget. So I went on a quest. I said, surely someone is selling something like an accessibility spell checker. I work at a university that has a decent size endowment. We can afford things. I even temporarily unblocked the number of the salespeople that kept calling me. I looked at about 30 tools, and what I found was that there were wonderful, wonderful tools out there for me. Manual checkers. This is Wave on screen that highlights all kinds of issues on the page and visualizes all kinds of invisible features. Fantastic tool. I use it every day. Um, but it didn't fit this need for content authors. You had to be told it existed. You had to be told to install it. You had to be taught how to read it. And you had to be reminded to use it. That told, taught, reminded was three problems in a row. Uh, there was a problem. And then I look at other tools. This is Axe. It's an older version, but Axe is great. I also use Axe every week. Um, but it kind of targets developers. If you look at the issues here, the top issue is that ARIA hidden elements must not contain focusable elements. That's a critical blocker. You might not know what that means, but that means if you're using a screen reader and you tab over um, this link, it's not going to say anything because someone has put some code in here that says the screen reader should ignore it, but it's still there. It's still a link. That's a critical blocker. That was not a problem created by a content author. And that's not a problem the content author can understand or fix unless they have another role where they're also a developer. So I can't give a tool like this to someone who's primarily a content author. And I also found as I was looking that I needed different checks. What I imagined, it wasn't fewer. It wasn't just don't flag developer issues. It was flag different sorts of things. So I had a test page I put together. I run Axe, things like that on that page. It finds about 7 issues, some of which overlap with where I was going. But it wasn't finding things that were, say, smooshy, not clear WCAG requirements. Like, I see a line of bold text. Maybe that should be a heading. Or this image's text alternative is unpronounceable. It has one, but I know in playing with screen readers that the symbols and things in it are not going to be spoken. Is this link meaningful and concise? That kind of thing. Um, so I actually wanted a whole lot more checks than the industry standard tools were throwing around. And I quickly found as I was looking at it that it wasn't trivial to write these. So one of my pet peeves is a link that says click here. Using a screen reader and there's 55 links on a page that say click here, it's pretty hard to understand that page. And you don't have to be using a screen reader to find that page also terrible. And so I wanted to write a script that would flag links that say click here, but I start looking at the content on these 1,500 websites that we're running, and sometimes the link is click here, sometimes it's here, maybe it's here with the right arrow, maybe it's learn more, maybe it's click here to learn more, maybe it's click this link to learn more. Authors are creative. Which means if you're trying to write an if statement, it's going to have to be creative as well. So that was on my mind. I found some crawlers. Crawlers are tools that will go through every link on the website and check every page and assemble the results into a dashboard that had more of these authorial links. But they had the same problem that the manual checkers had. It was overhead. You had to be told that the university had paid for this tool. You had to told to use it. You had to be taught how to use it. This one on screen is Dubbot. It's a little dashboard, has little, scores and links to lists of issues. It's honestly very intuitive to use, but I can't just throw this at someone. They need to be taught to use it. And they have to be reminded to use it. If any of you have rolled out a tool like this to a large number of people, what you'll find is they usually use it a lot for a few days, and then they never log in again. Until you remind them. Or maybe when they're redesigning the site in 5 years, they're like, hey, don't we have a tool that helps us with broken links? So told, taught, reminded again. Doesn't make a bad tool. Again, I use these tools almost every day in my job. They're wonderful, but they're targeted at me. I'm an accessibility developer. I also feared more work. The more I looked at these tools, the more I became aware that no matter how good they were going to be more work. They were going to have a complex UI. Many of them had a lot of role relevant alerts again. Some of them had very lengthy workflows. This is something that has a false positive and the user's trying to dismiss it. And this particular tool, you have to click through quite a few panels to actually dismiss an issue. So you have to convince it that you know what you're doing. That doesn't gonna work for someone that's trying on deadline to just post an event. So what else is out there? I found we actually had a checker already that did what I was looking for a lot of things. It was in the WYSIWYG editor, what you see is what you get. For content, for CK editor and Drupal, I've seen this, I think the same tool in TinyMCE. It came pretty close to what I wanted. Very simple little alerts that would highlight things. This example is flagging an image that needs alternative text. Um, but the funny thing, I'm doing this whole evaluation, I forgot it exists, because you had to click a button. It was hidden behind a button. Few of our users ever clicked it. I never clicked it. It was my job. I always forgot it was there. So, that kind of thing. And then I found Sally. And Sally was a tool that was uniquely different from pretty much everything else I found. It was installed on the website. It was installed in the front end of the website. So when an editor was looking on a page, the website itself would automatically highlight its own issues. Very simple tips, content only, very active maintainer. There's pictures out of Chabrick from Toronto Metropolitan University. This was his passion project. This is one of these things where it's like, this is a person at a university in their free time building something that was really, I thought, very unique. And so I chatted with him with sort of all the other things I wanted to do, and we decided the best thing to do for now was to fork it. So I forked it. Trivial, right? I had a lot to learn. So, and I had a very generous boss. So months and months and months later, I had a fork that I called Editorially, and it started to look like this. This is something that would be always running, so the user didn't have to remember to run it. You land on the page, it would have a little toggle in the corner that had the results of its scan, maybe just a check mark if you'd done good, maybe a count of the number of issues if you hadn't, and it might turn yellow or red based on how angry it is. And it would automatically pop open if there were new issues. It would show this little panel that says, this says 19 issues detected. And it's going to put little highlights in the page, just like Sally, where the issues are. And you can go to that issue and open it. It'll throw a tooltip. And this tooltip's pretty verbose. It says heading tag without any text, and then goes into several paragraphs. Headings and subheadings create a navigable table of contents for assistive devices, and it goes on to introduce the concept of headings and why the number matters and that kind of thing. Because this was an iteration. I came out with the first prototype of this and rolled it out to our environment, and I had very short tips that linked to more information, and what do you know? No one clicks links. So I try to have sort of the minimum viable training embedded in here for people that have never come to my classes. And that worked well. So let's play with that a little bit, because sometimes it's hard to picture that. So I've now brought up this is a Drupal interface. So this is a page that's being edited. Someone's pasted in their content, and they're going to go down and click save. And what's going to happen? They're going to immediately have the page carpeted in little alert signs, because this is my demo page. And it says 15 issues detected, and here's these issues. And it says manual check. Is this uppercase text needed? Uppercase text can be more difficult to read for many people and is often interpreted as shouting. Is that a WCAG violation? No, it's not. This is content quality. This is quality assurance. This is focusing on writers and helping them write content that's nice and accessible. But they don't have to be told, taught, or reminded. This is just there. It's just running. And it has some extra little doodads if they've actually been told, taught, and reminded. So I can come in here and I could click the outline and I could view the headings, little visualizer. If you used Wave, it's similar. It can show the alt text and that kind of thing. And you can shut it off if I X this out. Now it's out of my way. So it's nice to be able to get things out of your way. It also phones home. So this is the dashboard in Drupal. These are pages with accessibility issues. You can see the list and the issues that are found. You can view the types of issues. But there's not much here, and that's kind of the point. It's very simple. This is just for people that want to find a list of issues and look it up. They can find recent issues. It's nothing fancy. And that's the point. I'm trying to stay simple for content authors to just be like, oh, what mistakes have I made recently? WordPress, very similar kind of thing. This is the WordPress dashboard, and there's a list of recent issues and what pages they're on and which pages have issues. And again, you could filter by issue type, where's the, image has no alt text. Okay, which pages have that? And there's the page, and we could go to it and see where the issue is. And that's that. And I like to say that's that because it's like, here, this is something I've put like 3 years of my life into. But there's not much to show because most of the work is just trying to make it simple. Um, so yeah. So what happened? So we rolled this out here. Adam rolled his out at Toronto Metropolitan. Um, and what we found was just a real sea change. That writers reacted when feedback was immediate and role relevant. So, if I notice an issue on a website or a page and I email someone and be like, your homepage has a giant image on the front that's an image of text, and that's awful, and you need to fix that. They may never fix that. They certainly aren't going to fix that 5 minutes later. But this screenshot from the revision log of a article that I ran across and made me um, giggle showed that someone saved the page at 9:50 a.m. and they saved the page at 9:51 a.m. and they saved the page at 9:52 a.m. And I said, that's interesting. And I looked back at the revision logs, and the 9:50 a.m. save had fake headings, just lines of bold text that should have been headings. And within 120 seconds, they'd saved a new version where they'd changed those to headings. And I looked at this and I said, I know exactly what happened here. They hit save and editorially pounced on them, and they went, oh, and they fixed it. And I know this user, and I've talked with this user, and this is a user that didn't used to know that headings were important. But because the feedback was immediate and role relevant, it was fixed within seconds, and they didn't feel like this was a burden. It just kind of was there. And that's what spell check is. It's a different kind of thing. And this changed my job. My job went from heckling people to being consulted. And this carpet of screenshots I've kept because, like many people, I have an annual performance review, and boy, is it easier when other people write it for me. Pro tip. And it's things like, oh, I forgot to tell you, editorially found this issue, and what do you think about it? Or, oh, editorially is right, this table's missing a table header. Or someone says, oh, my accessibility checker wants me to put alt text on this. These are coming in on email. These are coming in on Slack. I'm just seeing these on company Slacks and Teams and things like that. People say, hey, could you take a look at this error message when you have a chance? This is a very different thing. So now I'm going from being the sort of police person for the university to the person people are coming to consult with, and often people I've never met. I mean, when you're supporting a couple thousand people, I'm only training a few dozen a year. I'm never going to talk to most people creating content. So having them cold call me and be like, why is my website yelling at me, is amazing. So what I learned. So first lessons learned. Lesson learned is if you give people tools that fit how they work, they will give you better work instead of more work. And that's just so important, is just this fit idea. And that just because a tool is great for me doesn't mean it's great for anyone else. So that was a lesson I was excited about. But this didn't replace anything we were already doing. Like, this didn't at all replace manual testing. It didn't replace our crawlers. It didn't replace the rest of our job. We still need all that. But it reached everyone, and that's just that kind of interesting thing, that when you started installing things in the tools that people use, you're reaching people you've never met. And there's no told, taught, reminded. It's just there. So that was cool. Lesson 2 I learned the more I watched the kind of things that were being flagged and the kinds of tests that we were writing, is that making accessible content is hard because we made it hard. And the we here is people that build content management tools. We made it hard. You look at a typical toolbar in a content management system, and it has all kinds of buttons that just shouldn't be there. Strike through or underline texts where it's like not going to be read by the screen reader, but people might be using it for emphasis. Right aligning text has all kinds of readability issues. Creating lists is kind of manual, so people often make fake lists. Block quotes versus headings, that's kind of complicated. Told, taught, reminded. Tables are complicated. We made it complicated. And so people are making mistakes that I shouldn't have to check for, but they're making the mistakes because the system is telling them to make the mistake. So here's an example of the table interface. This, I think this is from CK Editor, but it's the same in all of the major CMSs that I've seen, where they create a table that is inaccessible by default. You insert a table, and it asks you how many rows and columns you want. And then it drops a table on the page. That table does not have a header row. it does not have a header column. It is a pro feature of people that have been told, taught, and reminded that you can click on that table and bring up a little menu where there's a button that can add a header row. Or maybe you have to right-click it and hit table settings. We made that hard. If it was on by default, if you inserted a table and let's say it always had a header row, and you didn't want a header row, you would probably intuitively think, huh, I bet there's a way to turn this off or convert it to a column. And so you'd go looking for that setting. But by having it just off by default, it encourages people to just forget that they're supposed to have rows or never even think about whether they're supposed to have header rows. So that's a challenge. Just bad defaults is a big challenge that I'd love it if we as a community could work to address. Another thing I've found as an issue is that we often present unequal choices as equal. So like a heading dropdown, when you select that, it gives you a list of possible headings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do you want? That in no way implies that the number is meaningful. So I've seen some experimental things people put together, but I've never seen one adopted by any of these major systems where it discourages unlikely heading levels. Editorially, Sally, like our kinds of tools, we know when there's a skip level on a heading that's jumped to something that's semantically not meaningful. If you're a screen reader user and you heard like heading 2, apples, and then you hear like heading 4, red apples, you're going to think, what happened to the heading 3? Did I miss a topic change? That kind of thing. But there's no reason that the editor couldn't say gray out things that would skip a level, discourage it. I mean, maybe it's okay. You're the editor. Maybe you know something it doesn't know about embedded content or something. But we shouldn't be presenting equal choices, presenting as equal choices that are unequal. Another challenge I found is that a lot of systems assume that blanks are intentional. So alternative text fields are notorious in some systems where you just, if you want to not put alternative text, say this is just a spacer image, you should leave it blank. Screen readers should ignore this. If you leave alt text blank, the system interprets that as meaning you intended to mark this image as decorative and hide it from screen readers. That is almost always wrong. That's usually because someone just didn't fill it out. So that's a problem. And I've seen other systems say, well, okay, let's make it required. And what have I found there is it leads to workarounds. I audit sites and I find that people have the lovely alt text of TBD. And I just want to cry. But it got him through that required field. So, this is a conceptual problem for how we build our interfaces. So one of the experiments we've done here, Brian Osborne sits behind me, created a module for Drupal called Decorative Image Widget. And so this leaves that field as required unless you check a button. And that button is marked decorative. And it has this help text that says this image is decorative and should be hidden from screen readers. So, I mean, functionally, this is not stopping anyone from just checking the box and moving on, but it asks them to affirm that they understand what that means. They're affirming that this image should be hidden from screen readers. Which invites asking what that means if they don't know. And so this takes it away from like told, taught, reminded and into the realm of like ask, learn. So we're experimenting with this. Can't say this like solved all our problems at all, but it seems to be helping. So that kind of thing. And then the last thing, I had to delete some slides because this changed. Both CKEditor and Gutenberg have gone through some iterations in the years that I've been working on this. And there have been 2 real changes. One is that it's getting a lot harder to make fake lists. In these web editors, they've caught up now with what some of the desktop tools are, where like you put an asterisk and write a sentence and then hit enter, it's going to convert that into a bulleted list. Or if you write 1 space in a sentence and then hit enter and put 2, it's going to convert that into a list. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's fantastic. That user does not need to know that lists are semantic and meaningful for screen readers. It just fixes it for them. Love it. The other thing is that some of these tests that I'm trying to overlay are starting to drift into the systems themselves. So Drupal now has, this is an image that says add missing alternative text, a little flag on the image. That's a screenshot from the actual content editor. So that the editing tool itself is starting to visualize the alts and flag missing alts and things like that. And that's fantastic. This is the kind of thing where like, if I get these things to catch on, there's the end of my 15 minutes of fame. My tool only exists because the editor's encouraging these mistakes. So if we can change the editors, you don't need a checker. Last lesson. Last lesson is that right after save is still too late. This whole thing I was trying to do, like right after save, we'll check it. It'll be great. And what I was finding is people were playing with it and saying, I wish it would check it while I was writing. Or worse, they'd never see it. So Drupal has this edit, save, view workflow. You edit a page, you make the changes, you save it. It takes you back to viewing the live page, and then the checker pops up. WordPress doesn't have that workflow. You edit a post or a page in WordPress and you hit save, you stay on the edit page. You never go to the page. There's a button you can click to go preview the live page, and that's where the checker would show up. But you have to, that's a told, taught, reminded moment. You have to remember to do that. It's the responsible thing to do, but not everyone does it, and it puts it late in the process. So last year I wrote an very experimental live version of the checker. It would just outline paragraphs that had issues and put the title of the issue, and put that out there, and it worked. It was kind of cool, but it's not complete. There's no user interface for dismissing false positives, which is important. You can't get the rest of the tip. There's none of the extra tools, and it can get hectic. So the screenshot shows, it says, what happens when click here is not the only issue. Is what if there's also a whole bunch. Now you can't read more because the error is overlaying the text itself, because there's multiple errors in the same paragraph and they're all getting pasted in there. And I'm still delighted with this as an experiment, because like a random person that's working on this, and what can I do? But I don't look at that as a long-term answer. So I've been playing, and this is where we sort of start to close this talk. I want to bring you into where my head is and where I'm going. I've been working on a prototype for the next iteration of all this that would be a really full-featured live checker, more like spell check, right in there while you're working. So the first attempt, the next-gen prototype, number one, I drew my full interface. So I was just kind of working on trying to get it to be able to run while you were typing. And I got to the point I succeeded and started playing with it, and I immediately hated it because the tips were like covering the thing I was typing while I was typing. And it was competing with the editor's UI. Like the editor tool would pop up a toolbar and like it would be on top or under my tip, and that didn't work. So I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. And I went around looking, and I found tools out there like W Proofreader, Grammarly, these sort of tools that will overlay spell checking and grammar checking into an editor, and they'll underline the issue, and you can hover that underline and it'll show a little tooltip that says, here's the correct spelling. It looks like spell check. We've seen this before. And so I imitated that. I built that interface, and as soon as I played with it, I was like, okay, this doesn't work, because I realized I was doing the same thing they were doing. So you can't underline two things at once on top of each other. You can't break these tools. And I also realized very quickly that a lot of things I'm flagging are like things that are missing. And so how do you underline something that's not there? So deleted that code. So here's where I am today, literally today, like I was working on this morning. So I'm back to trying to draw this whole interface that I have normally, but the tips, I've shrunk the tips. I've moved them off the text a little bit, so they're less in the way. And then they're going to automatically hide. So I'm going to play here. So here, there's a tip here that's come up talking about this heading, and now I click into it. So I've clicked into this text, and the tip has now faded out. It's now barely visible, and certainly would fail WCAG's contrast requirements, but it's technically in a disabled state at the moment. But the point is, it's no longer competing with the text. You can now read what you're writing. So I'm going in here, I'm deleting HTTPS from this link and correcting this link, and everything kind of flashes and the error goes away. So I've now corrected this link, that error is gone, and I go down here and I click into another paragraph and the things fade out and I can hover them and now it says, manual check. Is this link meaningful and concise? It says click here. Uh, and I can click into that and I can edit it and make a more intuitive link. It says a meaningful link, and it's going to flash and the issues are going to go away. So that's the concept. So where I am now is saying, hey, I built this thing. I've spent like 3 years polishing the version of this that checks occasionally. But what do people think of being poked with a stick while they're trying to type? Like, I really need feedback from the community on this, because bringing this to something that's actually production ready is going to be a ton of work for me, and my boss is cool with giving me that time. But this is open source. We don't get paid for this. So I really don't want to go down a rabbit trail. So I would love to hear back from the community. I'd love to hear if there's other approaches you've seen out there, other tools that are doing things like this that maybe I haven't played with. I'd love to hear back if you think this approach is helpful or if it's going to feel hectic. And I will say, there's going to be just a button to turn it off. Some people don't want anything interrupting them while they're working, and it's going to have on and off modes. So if you just hate it, that's fine. You won't use it. But if it's the kind of thing you like, you like that. What else do you wish it was doing? So editorially.princeton.edu/next has a demo of this that you can just play with. It just has an editable box, and you can just type your own content. There's no submit button, nothing saved to the server. It's just a page. And that's my little spiel, my little roadshow here. So editorially.princeton.edu, and then Sally, I mentioned, sally.netlify.app. Adam and I now, after years of this, like we diverged and now we've converged, and we put very similar tools, and we pass all the code back and forth. And that's a wrap. So I can unshare and do some Q&A.
Thank you so much, John. We will open it up for the Q&A. Are there ways for people to get involved or contribute to Editorially? I know you showed the demo page. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is open source. If you go to that demo page, there is a link to my GitHub. So I'm soliciting feedback, but by all means, this is open source. So if you want to really contribute, send me a pull request, and I'll be very excited. Yeah.
Fantastic. What got you started in accessibility?
Oh, well, I was a classics major. The hieroglyphs might have been a clue. No, Wandering Road. I was in the publishing world. Here I was in our Office of Communications, the public relations office, and I was the technical person. And they handle branding for the university. So I was reviewing other sites for sort of logo and branding and things like that, which came to, as time grew on, also include some basic accessibility things. And it just sort of came to be the point where it's if you are a kind of a developer and you know something about accessibility, you're kind of unique, or at least you were 10 years ago. And so it very quickly became the point that people were calling me and being like, what should we do about this? And so at some point, the university realized that outsourcing all of our accessibility audits was prohibitively expensive, just because there were a lot of them. But also, we would get the results back, and we'd kind of be like, what do we do with these? They'd be very detailed, like, here's the problems. But people hear, but if someone gets something back and it says, like, you need to add some ARIA roles, and they're like, what's an ARIA role? So they would call me. And so eventually it came to the point someone was like, I think we should probably just have you specialize into this and just like have someone that people can call. And I said, that sounds great. So winding road, we're all kind of winding roads. A lot of people came in from the policy side, people came up from the developer side. It's a new enough field that I don't know many people that went to school for it. So, hey, where'd you come from?
It's a great story. Thank you for sharing. All right. AI is the new hotness. Do you have any thoughts on how AI could be used in Editorially as a new tool? Do you think it would be a good idea?
In Editorially? Nah, I'm a front-end developer. I'd never be able to figure out how to do it. But yes, there's all kinds of things to do. DQ has been working on this a lot with Axe, um, in the sense that when you get into the developer side of accessibility, say you're looking for a button that can't be clicked by a screen reader, you need to, detecting that can be difficult, and so having somebody that can understand that would be cool. In the content world, my big worry actually is alt text. The first thing people think of when they think of AI is like, oh, I'll have AI write my alt text. And AI is good at describing an image often, actually. But it's usually terrible at writing alt text because alt text is about what this image means in context. And so if you have an image of like, a puppy playing with the ball and the, AI says a dog playing with the ball, that's perfectly accurate. But if the point of this is to say that like the medium-sized ball is the right ball for a small terrier, that all has nothing to do with the reason this image is present on this page. And so I'm always kind of cautioning people from thinking AI is going to solve these problems. Um, but detecting them, yeah, I think the time will come in 10 or 20 years where I'm going to need to change careers again. Because so much of what we're doing is trying to make things machine readable. And when the machines can read as well as a person, you don't need me anymore. But I don't think that's soon from the things I've seen. I think you'll mostly just start to see small problems getting solved. I've definitely seen the screen readers advancing. I wanted in my trainings, I would give an example of why images of text were terrible. And I'm like, you don't even need to be a screen reader to see how bad this is. I'm like, look, I want to try to select this text and copy it, and that's not going to work. And I go to demonstrate this, and the browser selects the text. What? And like since my last training, some Mac OS update had added like auto OCR into the operating system that it would now allow you to select text and images. Like what? So, things are changing in ways like that I think will be interesting. But I think, it's going to, I think there's going to be a lot more things where people think it will help disabled people and it doesn't before we get to things that consistently do.
Great point. All right. What new features are you currently working on?
Live checking. Definitely live checking. That's going to keep me busy for the rest of the year. A lot of what I've been doing is recently was working on custom tests, people custom tests. That's what Adam's been working on. Keeps adding new features. I'm very into sort of dashboards and simplicity and performance. Adam is very into scope, so he has been adding things like grammar, like reading level detection and contrast checking and things like that I won't add because they're performance intensive, and if I want to check as you're typing, I'm going to crash your browser. So I tend to be sort of the lightweight one. He tends to be sort of the expansive one. We have fun.
Good
With
mix.
Waldorf and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, what WCAG success criteria are you wanting to add next, and how difficult is it to do so?
Ah, ah, ah. I always like to say, no, wrong question. It's like because I love this question because it's because one of the things I deliberately do in my tool is like I never talk about WCAG. Like the rest of my job, I'm talking about WCAG all the time. I have auditing templates that have details in WCAG and things like that. I'm usually not even looking in WCAG when I'm building this tool. I am looking at mistakes authors are able to make and commonly make. Uh, and what I find is that maps very poorly to WCAG. I mean, we've already sort of hit the low-hanging fruit. Is this a heading? Is this, what heading number is this? Um, and so we have a lot of things where it's in the sort of realm of nuance that's like, yeah, you have alt text here, but I can detect with my script that it starts with image of, and that's redundant to what the screen reader is already going to say. Or I can, things like that where we're sort of just working quality. I would say at the moment, I'm not working on anything in that realm. Feature requests tend to come in from people that want things. And I'm a little paused at the moment, partly because I'm trying not to be annoying. And I've kind of run out of things where I think there's low-hanging fruit to annoy people about, where I think it's worth annoying them about. There's a long list of things I could add. I mean, you look at like the list of like, Axe has 100, 150 tests, and I have like 40. So there's a lot of things I could add, but not much. So sometimes what I've been doing is doing things that are sort of specific. So like I implemented custom tests, and the first test we wrote in our system was detect Outlook safe links. This doesn't have anything to do with accessibility at all, but it's just this is a quality assurance tool, and people were copying and pasting links from their email systems, and the university has one of these tools that wraps this in something that's going to bounce through a server that's going to check the link. And they're copying and pasting that straight into their websites. And so now the URL is like a mile long and includes their email address and depends on us continuing to pay for this service to continue working. So is it an accessibility issue? No, it's not really an accessibility issue. But like now that we have the tool, we can start being like, oh, how else can we use this? That kind of.
Awesome.
So anyway, if the earlier question was like someone asked how to contribute. Like that's I think a great point to like kick me an issue and be like, I wish you were checking for this. That's a good point.
Oh, fantastic. Great idea. And it looks like I think we have time for one more. Have you looked into WCAG 3.0 and how you'll incorporate it into editorially in the future?
I have popcorn while I'm watching all that. But not really. I think I sort of as we look at the same sort of previous thing where it's a lot of what's changing and evolving is the other half of my job. The interface, interfacing with various like sort of new assistive device requirements. Like mobile reflow, touch target size, things like that. A lot of the authorial issues haven't really been covered. And then you have things like COGA, the Cognitive Accessibility Working Group, and they're talking about this simplification and using icons to communicate and all these sort of conceptual things that are just bigger than a bunch of JavaScript if statements are going to be able to help you with. So hey, maybe AI down the road is going to be able to say like, man, that was not a great way to word this. But I can't help you there. So so I'm not sure how much that's going to affect this tool, since the whole point of this tool is to sort of hide WCAG behind the curtain.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, John. We really appreciate all you do. Thanks for creating and maintaining this wonderful tool. We really appreciate it. Awesome. All right. Well, coming up in July, Forum is empowering people with disabilities using GitHub Copilot with Carrie Fisher and Jesse Dugas, Senior Accessibility Program Managers at GitHub. So mark your calendars for July 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern, folks. And looking for speakers. We're always looking for speakers and new voices in the accessibility community. We make a conscious effort to include speakers in marginalized groups in tech in our speaker lineup. So if you're interested, please reach out to us at team@auditing.com. And for those of you with IAAP certifications, AliTalks speakers and attendees receive professional development credits, CAECs, through the IAAP for continuing ed. And we'd love your input. So please let us know if you have any ideas on how to make AliTalks more friendly to all. And lastly, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a talk. Consider contributing to AliTalks through our Open Collective page, opencollective.com/AliTalks. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Mastodon, and thank you all for attending. Have a great day.